Oh,
We're recording, and let me see. I don't have any attendees yet.
okay. Well, we can come back if they arrive late.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Esther. You're
Hi.
on mute.
Yes.
We can hear. Okay, we can hear you now. Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. I'm glad we have a quorum and hope I'm quite sure we'll probably get a few more attendees. There's Zach now. So, Ms. Moreno, if you could, I'll call this meeting to order at 5:32. If you could call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Garcia,
Here, present.
Commissioner Kelsey, Commissioner Mayhew,
Here.
Commissioner Zambrano,
Here.
Commissioner Sparks,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor, Chair Tamides.
Here. Okay, and we don't have anybody in our comment period yet, right, Tina?
I do not. No, I do not.
So why don't we, if you'll scroll down, please, in that
Yes.
agenda. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce item 1 is consider approval by motion of the March 22nd regular meeting minutes. That was not our last meeting where we didn't have a quorum, but the one before that. Does anybody have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Mayhew and second by Mr. Sparks. Is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So let's move to item number 2. Tina, anybody in the waiting room?
No, sir.
Item 2 is discuss and consider any section of the San Marcos City Charter. Commissioners, I think we did a very good job of going through the charter from front to back, line by line, essentially, or section by section. And we also reviewed each of the council directed discussion items already. And so this is really an opportunity to go back through if there's anything that anybody wanted to add a discussion or have further discussion on. This is our opportunity to do it. So anywhere from section 1 through section 12. And Paul, I see you had your hand up. So if you want to kick us off, we'll go there.
It was my good hand. Yeah. So
Yeah, right.
what I'd like to do is go back to Article 7, which was the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
And it looks like what we changed, and I made the motion before,
Right.
is what's highlighted and underlined, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I went back through and I appreciate y'all getting, we made that motion, some arguments were made, whatever, and it passed. And that was, the main thing was changing it to where it says at least 5 votes. So in going back and reviewing the records of attendance, I think what we've probably done is created a great solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Because I think their attendance is really good. I think for all of one of those years, there was just one absence and one meeting. Other than that, everybody was there. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with y'all, and I don't know if you want me to start with a motion or if you want to just discuss it first, John, but I'd like to look at changing that back the way it was, striking
Sure.
what was changed.
Can you, Paul, it sounds like you recently reviewed the data that was sent to the commission from the staff about attendance. And I know you just referenced it and I don't have it in front of me.
That was on the March 22nd meeting notes, I
Okay.
think, Tina. If,
You want me to pull those up?
yeah, I think that
Yeah, if
probably,
you don't mind,
good.
just,
because it was information that we didn't have at the time, but now that we had the information, I think,
I had a hard present. He is excused.
You want me to reduce it or?
oh,
'Cause there's quite a
which
bit.
year is this? This is 2019. So
19.
let's look at 2020 first, if we can. I mean, this is, and if you scroll down a little bit, you get the totals, I think. Yeah. So, I mean, you can see for 2020, the only absence there was in June, which doesn't surprise me. People go on
Right.
vacation, you know.
How about 2019 when they were meeting in person? What's that look like?
I don't think this one has totals.
But you can see there, I mean, looking at the A's, I mean,
Yeah.
the only time in June, it looks like there were three absences. So June would be the only month.
So an A or an X means an absence, right? X is an excused absence, right?
Right.
Right, but it's still an absence nonetheless. So-
It is.
Yeah.
I don't see more than, like you say, Paul, just two in any one month there, or any one meeting, or 2 in 2 meetings. Looks like there's 1,
In June.
2, 3, 4 meetings where there was 5 meetings where there was 1 absence. And these are just 6 months of the year, right? We didn't get the whole year.
Right, because they switched their recording system and they couldn't supply the previous months
Okay.
or the later months.
So Paul, can I just ask you a question? The
Sure.
discussion what was the discussion we had? Was it council directed?
Well, yes. So council had brought this up, and I went back and I reviewed the council discussion, and there seemed to be a lot of, let's just call it concern that commissioners might, the way I looked at it, the commissioners might try to game the system or whatever by not showing up to vote or not vote. So there could be a concern. So if you had 5 votes, then, you know, if you had 4 people sit out and you only had 5 people meeting, you know, you didn't have to have 3 votes, because at that point, a quorum would be, you have the quorum, but in order to pass it, you would need 3 votes, right, Mr. Cosentino?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a concern, but never in the past 2 years have we ever had that situation happen. And I think, you know, we can worry about a lot of things happening, but that just hasn't happened. And so, you know, and knowing that I put the motion forward before, you know, I would be more inclined to strike that and go back to the way it was.
So that's 704.
Right.
And yeah, you made the motion and I made the second. So I'll be happy
Right.
to
Yeah,
second
I
your
think Zach,
motion.
yeah, I think Zach has something to say. So,
Where's he at? I don't see
You
him.
see me?
All right. Now I see you. Okay.
Okay. Hey,
You got
Paul, I was
something to
just
say?
I was just gonna ask you, Paul. I watched the meeting and I can't remember off the top of my head, but do you know what council members discussed that? Me being new to P and Z, I could maybe see why former commissioner and chair, Mr. Gleason, and then Maxfield may have seen that over their years. Obviously, it didn't really happen in 2019, 2020, but I'm just now starting to think, like, who would have thought that, and why would they have charged us?
yeah, I know that the mayor had some concern, and so did Councilmember Derek.
Okay.
And then I think some of the others, they were just like, well, yeah, we'll just let them, we'll put it onto this commission to figure out what their thoughts are on the system. So, and so, you know, in good faith, I think, I don't know, I would like to I guess I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we strike what we had done, which is the underlined, however, any motion of the Planning and Zoning Commission shall require at least 5 votes in the affirmative to be adopted.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second for discussion?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Mayhew and a second by Mr. Sparks to strike the underlined and highlighted language in 704. And I just want to make a comment and say thank you, Paul, for doing a little bit deeper dive into this. And now that you've brought it up, in 15 years that I saw, not that I watched every P&Z meeting, but all the P&Z decisions went to council, and I don't remember one, not one, where there was a hint of gaming a system of some sort for whatever purposes, by commissioners not showing up or just a small, it just seems out of the realm of reality that I've seen. So I agree with you. And now that we have the data in front of us, we didn't have the data when we voted, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so I do appreciate it, Ms. Moreno, for getting that information. That was good to have.
Any additional questions or discussions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if the vote passes, am I gonna just delete all of that, or am I gonna cross it out to show that it was there and it's not there?
Well,
It's a good question.
I would think that our final report I would think the final report would just have no change, but
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it makes no sense if you would have to watch this conversation to understand why we're at where we're at, I think, so. Any other discussion? Does everybody understand what the motion is? Any questions on that? If not-
You go ahead and repeat the motion, John?
Yes, Esther, absolutely. Paul, why don't you?
Sure,
Take that.
sure. The motion is to strike, however, any motion of the Planning and Zoning Commission shall require at least 5 votes in the affirmative to be adopted.
Okay,
And Esther, that was the language that we added at that, I guess it was the meeting before March 22nd.
yeah, correct.
When we did that,
So
yeah.
now we're gonna strike that off and just leave it as a majority? Or,
Yes,
Yes.
the majority of the membership,
okay,
which is
And that-
what Robert's rules and, yeah, I mean,
And that's the way it was.
okay,
Yes.
so it's just going back to the original, yeah.
Yeah.
All righty,
And there'll be a period after membership instead of a comma.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments about this motion? Okay, Ms. Moreno, could you call the roll, please?
yes. Commissioner Garcia,
aye,
Commissioner Kelsey, still not here. Commissioner Mayhew,
aye.
Commissioner Zambrano,
No,
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomites.
Aye. Okay,
Motion
all
passes.
right. Okay. Very good. That's a good start. Thank you, Mr. Mayhew.
Mhm.
Anybody else have
Welcome.
any discussions they'd like to?
everything's okay?
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. I meant to hit the mute button, but I wasn't quick enough.
It wasn't quick enough.
That he was gonna hook up to the truck, so I think it's.
Anybody else have any suggestions?
yeah, John, can we go to Article 3,
Yeah,
Section
just
3.01,
I need your help before, so you know.
subsection B? Obviously, I ran back in November, and a lot of people that I talked to, and I know I could have mentioned this whenever we address this section. We're for single member districts and wanted just a more representative government. And I searched around for different cities, and I didn't realize that actually some of the single member districts started from the Charter Review Commission. So I would like to make a motion that council explore a single member district form of government, which is under B there, 3.01B, that council explore a single member district form of government rather than all at-large places.
Okay, so we have a motion from Zach to explore San Marcos single member districts versus at-large districts. For discussion, do we have a second?
I second it.
And we have a second by Ms. Garcia. Okay, Zach, do you have any more that you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like I was saying, just when I ran, a lot of people that I encountered and talked to either didn't know any city council members or didn't feel like they had a direct representative on council. And just when I was reading around and kind of searching the surrounding cities, city councils, I realized that a lot of them have districts. And I feel like, I mean, the school board has it. And I just feel like to be a more representative and democratic form of government, I think that our city should have that too. I don't want to get into specifics. I feel like council can do that and then obviously take it to the voters rather than trying to hash out this new form of government. But I think that it's something that the community has voiced to me when I ran, and here I am on Charter Review. So I'm bringing it up to y'all, and I'd love to have some discussion on it.
I have one question that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Esther.
Well, it's long overdue, John. It's long overdue. We should have followed, suit to our surrounding cities. I know I talked to Celestino Mendez of the American GI Forum, who who filed the single member district in court with the San Marcos School District. And when they did that, the school district went ahead and settled out of court, and they went ahead and gave us 3 single member districts. And that's what needs to happen here with the city, because I agree with Zach. I mean, the Victory Gardens, they have no one's looking out for the Victory Gardens. It's still under construction, going on 2.5 years now. I know that Roland Salcedo had reached out through a city council member to the city manager. And I mean, we need it because, I mean, although we have, a Hispanic it's just like, we just don't have what we need in Victory Gardens, and they're underserved. And so Celestino, told me, Esther, before I die, I want to see, us, which is, I'm in LULAC, come in behind us, and we need to go to the city, and we need to get our single member districts. We just don't have the representation that we need.
For the record, I lived in Victory Gardens for 10 years as a council member and mayor. Just throw that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Esther, I agree with you. The construction project is way, way overdue, and it is a very tough thing to live through. Much tougher than I thought it would be.
Well, the thing about it is, John, I was knocking on doors, because I'm a Democrat chair for the Democrat Party. That's precinct 112 is mine. And I was knocking on doors, they were complaining here that it's been over a year now, that like the first house belongs to Cuevas, right behind Casa Maria. And he said, Esther, he says, look at my ceiling. And he goes, look, it's all cracked. I said, well, how'd that happen? He said, when they were drilling on the street there, that all the vibration, and he goes, it was like a little miniature earthquake, and all his ceiling is all messed up. And then the neighbor also, Sergeant Picasso's grandson, the next door over, a house over, he again, he asked me to go inside, and I said, no, I'm not for the city. I'm for the Democrat Party. But anyway, they were showing me his ceiling as well. I mean, so yeah, we need to get that single member district. I mean, just so, because like right now, the city council members, like Zach says, if we had them in the single member district, then they had their council member to reach out to, and that's not happening in the Victory Gardens and in my neighborhood, East Guadalupe. So yeah, so that would be more effective, and it would, because right now it's just like I don't know, the Hispanics say, well, what's the use of complaining? Nothing gets done about it, so I know that you lived there, like you said, over 10 years, and it's just like I talked to Rudy at Post Street. He's the Kona rep over
Yeah.
where you live, and I was at his place, and you guys are trying to put, this is when you were still a council member. You guys were trying to put that roundabout right there at that what, 5-way stop or 4-way stop, and he was so upset. Kona Representative Rudy, he says, he even said, John, that he told you that they didn't want the roundabout. He said, but John Tamara still called the fire truck over there and the school bus, and they try to make a circle there, And I said, well, why didn't you speak up? He goes, I did. I told John they don't want the roundabout here. And so that's why it's important that we have single member districts.
And we don't have one.
Yeah.
Right. So I get you. Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Mayhew.
Yeah, I'll just
I'm
say
sorry,
that.
Commissioner Taylor had his hand up before.
Okay.
Sorry.
I did.
Sorry, Mr. Taylor. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Chair, Mr. Chairman, I want to share with you guys that this issue with single member district came up quite a number of times with previous elected officials. When we go back and look at during the time that I think Chris Jones served on city council, I joined Chris Jones in an effort to try to push for a single member district, and the city of San Marcos gave us, I think they put us in a fire pool when we tried to push that issue with members in the community. Now, I know the demographics has changed, and so it's a different makeup of the city of San Marcos, but the commission needs to be prepared for the fight. Whereas I agree with Zach, and I think we should have single member district. I think we better be prepared for a fight, because I think the majority of San Marcos is going to push back on that issue as they always have. I had this same conversation with several other council members just recently that moved on about doing the very same thing. And in meetings that they had, they got a lot of pushback and objections to that. So be prepared for the fight. That's my comment, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we went to the city council, and we asked the city council member about single member district. This was when Saul Gonzalez got elected. And we had a couple of city council members who said, open quotations, I don't think that there's a need for it right now. Why I didn't say anything, but there was a need back 3 years ago.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I appreciate your comment, and Mr. Mayhew.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll take the contrarian view. So somebody needs to put something different out there for y'all to think about. So the way I see it is a little differently. I think that right now I'm represented by 7 different people up there. There are 7 people I can go to. It's not just one person who is responsible for one part of the city. So, I would make the argument that it would be far better to have 7 people that are accountable to you than just one. Another is, you look at the school district as an example, right? So that was brought up. And the school district, single member districts, traditionally, the single member districts are very there's very poor show out for those single member districts. Some districts had a total of 75 people voting in an election. And so, a few weeks ago, we talked about how important it was to have lots and lots of people vote, right? So we talked about making sure we had more and more people voting, even so much to say, hey, we need to do even year elections, right? Because we want to encourage the voting public. Single member districts does not encourage voting. As a matter of fact, you also have situations where there may be people that you or others might want to remove from, the council or the school district, using them as an example, right? So if there was somebody that, somebody thought, had some, crazy moral problem or whatever, you can't do a recall on that person. Only the people in that district can do that. And so I think it's problematic in a lot of ways when you look at, who's not really being represented. I mean, going back in history, and I think you have to go back to, I think it's 1972 that Luciano Flores became the first Hispanic mayor of our city. Frank Arredondo followed him up. And I've known quite a few people. I mean, I've served with Rick Hernandez and Johnny Diaz was there right before that. On my term, there were 2 African Americans on there. I had Martha and Earl that I served with. Great people. The first Chinese American mayor. That's pretty interesting. Amy Craddock was the first woman. Just thinking of people, Daniel Guerrero certainly served quite a bit of time and did a great job. So, I mean, I think when you're looking at single member districts, I see it more as a hindrance than as something that would be helpful. And my view might be the minority view on here. I don't think the council, if we came up with it, I don't think the council would move it forward because they would be basically getting rid of their own positions. Does that matter? No. If it's what we want to send up there, we can. But for me, it's really more about disenfranchisement. I mean, because you've got 7 people right now, if there are problems because of construction or drilling or whatever, there are 7 people that should get phone calls, they should get emails, and they should be held accountable. And that's a lot better than just having one person who then has to go to the other 6 and say, hey, I need some help here. Will you back me up on this?
Yeah, but like the Hayes County Commissioners, I totally disagree with you, Mr. Paul Mahan. Everything you said, my response is the opposite. Because when the precinct 1 county commissioner is Debbie Gonzalez Inglesby, and I can't go to Walt Smith, commissioner over there at Dripping Springs, to talk about something over here in my precinct 1 in Victory Gardens, or where I live in East Guadalupe.
That's right, because they're single member districts.
Please don't interrupt me. Please don't interrupt me. Let me finish. Now, when I go to the county commissioner, Debbie Gonzalez Inglesby, she's all over it. She's familiar with what's going on in the Victory Gardens and East Guadalupe. That's like me trying to get a hold of Lon Shell in Wimberley. What does he know about what's going on in the Victory Gardens, in Los Barrios or East Guadalupe? So no, it totally works against us. When I go to Debbie, Commissioner Gonzalez Inglesby, you know what? That's like saying people coming from Wimberley or Dripping Springs to County Commissioner Debbie Gonzalez Inglesby. It's more effective when you have a single member district, because then we hold our county commissioner, Debbie Gonzalez Inglesby, accountable. And believe me, we hold her accountable. She tells you I'm the person calling her, emailing her, and go walking and have meetings with her. So this is, maybe what has to happen is what happened with the school district. When he had to file that lawsuit, finally, the San Marcos Consolidated Independent, okay, American Jam Form, okay, we're going to settle out of court. We'll give you 3 single member districts. Maybe that's what has to happen to force this to happen. Because it's 2021. San Marcos, it makes it look like San Marcos, they don't believe in equal representation. It's just like, and then when you have 3 city council members all living on Belwood Street, all in the same area, well, I'm sorry, Paul, but this is you're saying from the minority, or I think you said something about that point of view. This is just for common sense. I mean, it works more effective. What's her name? Lupe Costilla, the former, she was my single member district school trustee. And she knows me from calling her and emailing her and having meetings with her. When it came to Central, here down the old bottom school, the first Mexican school. So I'm able to go to her because that's in my backyard, East Guadalupe Street. You have the other school trustees, Clem Cantu, she lives way across town. And then you have, but this is what I'm trying to say. They live in our area, so they know what's going on in our area. We have meetings at Central and stuff. So that's how you're more effective. Mayor James, she lives across town. Melissa Derrick lives in another part of town. So, yeah, this is very helpful, and it's more effective when I can go to my single member district, County Commissioner Debbie Gonzalez Inglesby, or I can go, to the former, I used to go to Lupe Costilla, and I pick her up and say, hey, what's going on Central? Lupe, and this is how we get things done. And then I say, look, I'm going knocking on doors here at East Guadalupe Street. And the Lupe, we do not want the, I forget what it was that Miguel Arrondo had done. They want to add up, like 3 or 4 stories up there on top of on top of Central. I said, that's going to make our taxes go up. Gentrification. Oh, no. I said, so, but I was able to reach out to my school trustee, and so, yeah, I can't, and the other school trustees and the other sections of towns, they could care less. So, yeah, no, single member districts are fair, and it's happening around Austin, around our cities, and we need to look to go in that direction.
Okay. Thank you, Esther. Let me get some other.
May I respond?
Yeah. Yes, but
let me
let me
wait for
go
her
ahead.
to finish. So,
Okay.
and I appreciate your point of view, Esther. I can see that you and I are on a different side on this particular case, but I would still argue that it is best for you and anyone else, for me, to hold every single one, all 7 of our elected officials accountable, because you have that power within you to do that.
Okay. Zach, I'm going to get to you. Arthur's got his his hand up there in the corner. So Arthur, go ahead, and then we'll go to Zach here.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things I'm hearing from the vice chair is, and he makes a great point, is how restrictive the single member would be. But on the other hand, I understand that Zach has done some research to compare what other cities are doing and the effectiveness of having a single member district. I'd like to hear more of the research results from Zach as to what he's found. My other point to you, Mr. Chairman, would be whether or not it would make sense to do some sort of a survey to determine whether or not how people feel in San Marcos about a single member before this even went to council. Is there something that we can do to gather that information before it was presented? Anybody have a?
Let me weigh in on your question, Arthur, and then I'll pass it on to Zach for comment. Just so everybody knows, there a long time ago, I want to say like almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that. There was a basic analysis or survey, not survey, just an analysis. There's a lot that goes into the governance structure in single member districts. First off, where are the districts? Who writes the districts? How do you make the districts equitable? Is everybody single member? Is it just a few? Is the mayor at large? You know, all those things are considerations. Also, how does funding take place? Now, the county is 225 square miles. The city of San Marcos is 32 square miles. So it certainly makes sense that you have a community on the other side of Western Hayes County, like Dripping Springs, that is nothing like San Marcos. It's not even close. I mean, either in proximity, and so you have to have
You're
50
breaking
miles
up,
away.
Chair. Your audio.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you have to have someone who's, it's this fly that's doing it. You have to have someone that, you know, 50 miles away from each other to advocate for local roads and things like that. But I mean, our streets connect multiple neighborhoods. So anyway, I just think there's a lot of considerations that I guess what I'm trying to get to in the end is I think that the city council has to truly research how this would work, what it would mean, how it would be implemented. Is it right away? Is it over time? And those things, I think, would require and I'm not a big fan of outsourcing Arthur things, but I think an unbiased group that specializes in issues like this, these types of issues of governance, to at least give the council the knowledge of things they would need to know before they would say yes. Does that make sense? Does that kind of answer your question, Arthur?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Anyway, that was my thought, because we went through this, like I say, just in a very brief way 18 so years ago, and we had a little information, but it just never got beyond that. So I'm going to go to Zach, and then I'm going to go to Chance. So Zach, go ahead.
Okay, I kind of want to address everything that each one of you said. So John, since you're the latest, I know, and Mr. Cosentino, maybe you can help me. I know this is why I didn't want to get into specifics of it, because I think ideally districts with multiple at-large positions and then the mayor position being at-large too would be ideal. I don't think that's for us to hash out, but I think that's something that community members like myself, like Esther, obviously it's been an issue. Arthur dealt with it with Chris Jones when he was on council, is something that's needed to happen. And I think we see that. So I know there's the legality, there has to be some kind of like survey done of who lives where, how many people, because I think it's the Texas voters, I can't remember off the top of my head. I researched it, I didn't write it down, but pretty much the way that they would draw the districts. I think it happened similar to whenever they did the school board and how they drew like the districts for the school board, making sure that obviously each district has equal representation and there isn't gerrymandering of that sort. So there's that aspect to it that obviously would have to go before council. It's not council. I don't think council would be tasked with, of course, trying to draw the districts themselves or anything like that. And then Paul, I know kind of going on with what you said, first and foremost, I just wanted to ask you, do you not feel that in a single member district that the representative of that district would feel more accountable than someone who's at large?
No, as somebody who has been elected at large, I felt responsible for anybody and everybody who called me up. I didn't make a distinction, and I've served on both.
Okay. I just going off of what Esther said, and I've heard that whenever I was block walking and talking to neighbors here in the community. Someone who lives in and around the vicinity of Victory Gardens, as a representative, I personally believe would feel more accountable to make some kind of progress or to do something more than someone who is at large, which is why I am for a single member district. Also, you made the assertion that you believe that a single member district would have a lower voter turnout. I don't think it's fair to compare in that aspect of voter turnout, the school district to us, considering the school district is in May. And we already voted to have elections on even, is it even or every?
Even for the mayor,
Yeah, okay.
and then not even.
So I honestly don't think if this commission approved this and sent it to council, I honestly don't think it would affect voter turnout like you think it would.
Well, I don't want to interrupt, but I know you've got a lot of points. So if I can just jump on that real quick, the school district's 200 miles. It's a lot larger area. So there's a lot more potential voters. And I'm telling you, if you look at the voting for each of those single member districts, you'll see that there are many times during the elections when you can't get but 75 people to show up for a district.
In May.
In May.
In May, not in
It
November.
doesn't matter if it's in May or not. Look at the potential voters.
All right. So I honestly feel someone who lives on North LBJ is not as vested as someone, again, who would live in and around Victory Gardens and who knows the neighbors there. And I just feel like accessibility and accountability really to a representative that is accountable to that district would be a better system and in the end be a better outcome and democratic form of government than what we currently have. I know, kind of going off of what Mr. Taylor said, this is something that Chris Jones brought up, and I think that Mr. Taylor, it is going to be a fight. I am in a few different local orgs, and I know Esther mentioned GI Forum. I know this is something that LULAC's wanted to happen for a long time here in the community, and I know it's not going to be easy. I don't want to say I'm the one spearheading this, but I think it's going to take a coalition of not only neighbors and community members, but local organizations that believe that this is the right thing to do for the community. And then, Esther, I just wanted to say that I agree with what you said. So that's it.
Thank you, Zach. Good points. Chance Sparks.
Sure. I'm not going to speak to anybody's particular points on this. I just want to offer some perspective from having been through a transition to single member districts that happened in Buda. I guess that was probably 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And the way that played out, if I recall correctly, is the Charter Review Commission made a determination that they wanted to go to single member districts and recommended an initial hybrid where 3 were single member, 3 were at large mayor. They didn't have to define what those districts were at that point. They actually set a plan in place that said that we want to go to this, we want to be effective on this year, whatever year it was, I forget what it was. And that provided enough time for the city to then conduct the proper studies that go with transitions to single member districts, because you have to go through this elaborate demographic analysis and all of that. So we don't necessarily have to completely solve the problem as this commission or as this body, or neither does the city council for that matter. But that's kind of what the path looks like. As far as the motivations to that single member district step in Buda, what actually prompted it there was growth patterns and the emergence of neighborhoods that were highly organized with highly involved HOAs that had demonstrated the capability of stacking a city council. And so that was the response to it. So it wasn't driven as much by a demographic question as it was a geographic question. From my experience as a city staff member, it seemed to go pretty well in the transition. And at least in the hybrid model, we found that even if people were representing their specific district, they still generally stuck to representing everyone as a whole, simply because that doesn't get you a great reputation with other council members. That's what we saw play out. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I'm not going to offer an opinion one way or the other at this point. I just want to offer some perspective.
Yeah, and I just want to say that too, Paul.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Even though you have a representative in your district, that doesn't stop you from being able to email every council member, the at-large, the mayor. It doesn't hinder you in that point. You can still email them. They're still accessible. They're still representatives of the city.
That's true. I have just writing down council members' names and trying to think where they live in the city. And I have Jane Houston as, what's the neighborhood at North LBJ and Craddock called? Anybody?
Inglewood.
Sorry, it skipped just off the top of my head, but in North LBJ and Craddock, Shane Scott, Blanco Vista, Melissa, Mark Gleason, Blanco Gardens, Melissa Derrick, Franklin Square, Saul Gonzalez, Willow Creek, Alyssa Garza, I believe, lives in Blanco Gardens. Is that correct? Where does she live, Zach?
I think the neighborhood is technically El Camino Real.
Well, Camino Real, yes. East side.
Mhm.
And who am I missing? Elisa, Saul, Melissa,
Max.
Max. And he lives off of Center Street. So he lives in Dunbar. He lived near Ollie Giles' old house.
Lazy Lane.
Sorry?
Is it Lazy Lane?
No. Oh, the street.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so it's in between MLK and Valley Street.
Right.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, really six different neighborhoods. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anyway, okay. Pretty diverse. Not everybody's in the same neighborhood. And 2 on the east side. Okay, so we have a motion in a second. I have a question for the motion. Says the word explore. So I heard Chance what you said about how the city of Buda made this transition and how the Charter Commission made a recommendation and the reasoning as well. It was geographic. We obviously don't have that issue because we're all over the place with our current council. So I would ask, word explore to me means something different than change to single member districts. So
Yeah,
Zach, I would ask you as the maker of the motion. I mean, you're talking about amending the city charter, and I don't know if you can endeavor. It has to be something. So instead of each council member where would your language go? You had 301B.
Yes.
Okay. Members of the city council shall be elected at large. So the language you made in your motion was city council shall explore.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry, I was taking it on from the stance of the recommendation to council. Rather than like.
Well, I get that, but this is the city charter, so I think that's a different. We can make a recommendation, but if we're gonna make a proposal to change the charter, I think it has to be
More concrete.
an actual change.
Which I guess my thoughts when writing that were just to be more broad rather than trying to set something in stone.
Well, hold that thought for 1 second, Zach, if you would. Mr. Sparks, Mr. Former Assistant City Manager in Buda, tell us what was the language like from the Buda?
Actually, what I'm trying to look for now
Okay.
to see if I can find it.
Yeah.
That could be how we handle this for the purpose of maybe this commission is because we still have a couple of meetings left, right, John? Is that right?
Maybe one.
It might not hurt to, or we can always just kind of like park this thing for now. I'll see if I can pull up that language real quick.
Okay.
That might be a way for me to get there. I know I don't have it in front of me yet. I just don't remember
Sure.
exactly how it was worded.
How it was worded. Wouldn't it have been worded very specifically that this shall be the way council members are elected?
Yeah, it was this is the way it shall be, and then it set the transition on it.
Because see, that's what I think it has to be. I don't think we can make a recommendation that they explore. I think we have to say exactly because right now the charter says exactly how council members are elected at large. So I think you have to say in a motion how, just sitting on the other side of the dais, Zach, from when these are received, there has to be, you have to say yay or nay to something at the city council. So we can make a recommendation that they explore. I don't think that's your intent, is it?
It is not. I mean, it is, but obviously,
I get it.
yeah.
But,
I see
but
what
see,
you're
this
saying.
is why I think Arthur's point about, I would have loved the council to direct us to have this discussion. That I would have appreciated, because if they had, then I know at least they would have taken it to heart when we sent it. I would have loved for the council to have done some of the legwork prior, some of the evaluation, and then ask the Charter Review Commission to make some specific recommendations. Because frankly, with a change as dynamic as this, to receive it, debate it, and say our charge is technically is May 31st, we have to be completed and a final report issued. So that means you have June to discuss it at city council, maybe the second meeting in June, and then they're off in July, and they have to call an election in August. That means they have to be very sure by the first meeting in August what's going on the ballot. So those are the concerns that I have about this. It's not. So anyway, but we do have this motion and I'm not hearing any changes to it. So
I'm sorry, I'm like writing something, trying to
that's all right.
more concrete.
Is Zach making a motion to make changes on 301C? I mean, some actual changes or just to explore?
Well, the original motion was 301B.
Oh, B, okay. Okay.
Hey, Chance, have you had any luck? I understand what John is saying, so I don't know if I need to amend my motion that city council, pretty much using the wording from 3.01B, that the members of the city council shall be elected from the city by, again, ideally, I was thinking 4 at-large districts with 2 at-large positions and a mayor who is also elected at large. I think that language, John, goes to more of what you're saying, that can be voted yay or nay, which I'm open to discussion. I know, Buda, you said did 3 districts and 3 at large and the mayor at large.
Well, I think couldn't you just say at large or I'm sorry, in single member districts?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
And then like Chance said, I mean, if they want to do it, they're gonna have to do a bunch of research before they can do this. That's just
Right.
they can't just go up there and say, yep, we're gonna do it. And next November, everybody will be single member districts. It's not gonna work that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
I did find our charter amendment language. It is a doozy. It is a long amendment. I don't know what the best method is for me to share that. This is something like I should just email you, Tina, to distribute, or
Yeah, if you email it to me, I can open it up and share it on the screen.
okay,
Or-
that might be the easiest. Or I guess
So
I have screen share
this is the
capability.
actual amendment language.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it's every bit of a couple of pages probably.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I cheated. I found the election guide. So
Right. Well,
Um,
that's better than anything.
yeah, let me see.
Yeah, because you weren't finding it on the city website, I can assure you.
Oh yeah, because it's 4 years ago. I think
Hard to find things on the city website. All right, Mr. Cosentino, please weigh in while we're waiting. What say you on this?
Well, so, your charge as under the city charter is to recommend amendments, right? To possibly be considered by the voters. So the voters will want to know, and the council will want to know, well, what are you asking me to vote on? So Tina's going to share, I guess, what view to put on the ballot, but apparently they had fleshed out in some detail, apparently how it would all work. So if another thought, and for what it's worth, one of your other recommendations was to change the term of the mayor, but to have it apply at a future date, like not that, in 2024, right? So I don't know. I guess I don't know if Buda, gave that
Specifics are important. is what you're
to
saying.
get there, but it gave some time to, to maybe build in some time. That might be an option, but I do agree with what you said, that the commission ought to be recommending a specific textual change to the charter, to the council,
Okay.
rather than just, exploring something, because exploring might mean, okay, well, we'll talk about it as a council and we'll try to decide whether it's going to happen this time or at some future date, but that's not a specific recommendation. So.
And that's not language that you would find in the charter anyways, correct?
To explore it, no.
Okay, so so you're going to need something specific. Zach and Esther going to need, real specifics here. So do you want to work on that and bring it back, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I can do that. And I think Chance can email me, or I can find it, I'm sure too, Buda's language, and I can kind of go off that and then present it in a more contextual way to edit the charter or to amend the charter.
Okay.
I just sent it to Tina, so it's working its way through the interwebs. And it was set up. The basic process was they approved the single member districts. The question was, shall the city of Buda amend their respective sections of the charter to establish and to provide for the transition to six city council member single member districts in 2 phases. The first being a transition to 3 at-large city council member positions and 3 single member district positions to be filled at the November 2018 election, and the second being the transition of the remaining 3 when the city reaches a 25,000 population. And then, and so basically this was done in 2017, and that provided the city a year to conduct the appropriate studies. And they actually went through and had full language that spelled out exactly how you go through and do the study and all that kind of stuff.
Di-
But it's long.
Chance, did they have any outside assistance in preparing the actual ballot prop on this?
I don't know about the ballot prop itself. They may have, because our city attorney there, we had a firm that did city attorney work there.
Yeah,
But I can't remember if it was that firm that provided additional assistance on it, or if they actually brought in, I think they may have brought in Bickerstaff Heath. They do a ton of that kind of single member district drawing the boundary stuff.
right. And they also analyze the census data to figure out, how the district can be drawn and how that will pass muster,
Yeah.
with the Justice Department. So,
I will say that the timing's kind of good since there's a fresh decennial census. When we did this in Buda, it was at the end of a census period,
Yeah.
and that required some significant calisthenics to properly draw the districts with a defensible method.
yep.
And Chance, can I ask you, do you recall leading up to this, was there community discussion about it? Was this like on the minds of council at the time? Was it ever did the council give like they do here? You shall look at these directed items going into the charter process, or?
That I just don't remember. That's somewhere under the thick residue of barley and hops on my brain, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. Just sometimes it's good to forget.
It's like things I never thought I'd have to recall.
The mental scar tissue. Well, okay, so yeah, I get this. I mean, this is how it's got to look. It's got to be. And Mr. Cosentino, the council's not prohibited from holding a proposition election anytime, are they? They don't have to do it just at charter review time.
Well, the fact is that the Texas Constitution does allow the home rule charter to be amended as often. It actually says, believe it or not, no oftener. I'm sorry. I laugh every time I say it. No oftener than every 2 years. So while we have mandatory review in the charter every 4, it could happen. It could happen. If anything passes in November of 2021, 2 years later, you could have your next charter election. You wouldn't have to wait 4 years.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Zach, do you want to keep going on this? Do you want to come back to it?
I think we should come back because obviously I think I need to add some more concrete language.
Do you want to make a motion to withdraw your motion? Do you want to withdraw your motion and
yes,
have Esther withdraw the second?
Yes. Ms. Moreno, may I please withdraw my motion?
Noted.
It's not necessary, Esther, but do you want to withdraw your motion?
Yes.
Your
that's
second?
fine. Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So we
Mr.
have,
Chairman, I
Yeah.
have sent the document over to Ms. Moreno, so there's at least something that we can look at some point.
And do I need to email it to the whole commission or just to Zach?
yeah, send it to everyone, please.
Okay.
Okay. Well, while we're on this section, anybody else have any items for now that they want to discuss? I have a couple I can bring up, a couple of minor ones. So I'll do that. Start in section 3.11. Okay, if you can go down just a little bit, I can see it. Or, no, the other way,
Oh, sorry.
Well, I got a short screen, so I'm trying to see everybody here. Hold up.
That work?
Yeah, okay, procedure, passage of ordinances. I'm not absolutely positive this would be the place, and I'm open to suggestions from the attorney on where it might go. But I would like to, I'm gonna make a motion in just a second, but I'm gonna explain it first. I wanted to add language to section 311 that says all city council agendas shall contain an item listed as citizen comment period and question and answer session with press and public. So I'm going to make that motion in a second.
I'll second. Are you looking for a second or are you?
Well, I'm going to make it in a second. If you just
All
get,
right,
let me just
I'll
explain.
hold. I'll hold.
Yeah, stay on hold there. I'm not sure if 311 is the recommended section, but this just says that if the council is together as a group, there will be an agenda. Council cannot get together without one. But more and more seems to me, at least to my mind from the outside looking in, at various times of day, work sessions become really direction sessions. Sometimes they're votes occur, but more often than not anymore, rather than just have a discussion and give direction on or flesh out. Work sessions used to be about fleshing out complicated discussions and then placed on a future agenda item for a thorough discussion. But I've seen a few where it just seems to me where big issues are, I don't want to say decided because there wasn't a final vote, but we all know that that's where a lot of the decision was made, and no citizen can make a comment or ask a question about it. I think they may have a question and answer session with press and public, but there's just no citizen comment item. So
Good.
anyway, I will make the motion.
Is 3.09, I mean, would 3.09 be a better place for it?
Michael, tell me.
Meetings of the city council.
Yeah, let's move the screen to there and take a look.
That'd be fine by me.
I mean, you could add a sentence in there, whatever you wanted to.
Yeah, the second paragraph to Commissioner Mayhew's point says the city council shall provide by ordinance for procedures to call meetings, set meeting agendas, conduct meetings. But so that's a total delegation to the council about how those agendas are worded. But if you wanted to actually hard code it by charter, I think that would be a place to put it. Sure.
Okay, so I would suggest that this be in section 309 at the very end in its own standalone sentence or paragraph. And the paragraph would begin, all city council agendas shall contain an item listed, quote, citizen comment period, and quote, question and answer session with press and public.
Second.
End quote.
Second that thing, John. That sounds good.
We have a
sorry?
motion in a second. I'll give you the language again and I'll say it again before we vote, but
I just want to make sure you want shall in there.
shall,
Yes.
shall,
Okay.
definitely. Always.
That's what
shall.
that's what I understood the second to be is shall. Yeah.
Shall, absolutely. Shall contain.
Okay,
It was a citizen comment period. Was that it? Was that the exact
Yes.
Citizen comment period and question and answer session with press and public.
question?
That's how they're listed on the agendas now.
All right.
Sometimes they're not there.
Would you time that part of the citizen comment, press comment session as we have like in the charter in the Ethics Review Commission? Would there be a time limit as to how long they speak or comment?
Well, I thought about that, Arthur, and I would leave it up to the council to set that procedure. I will just tell you, oftentimes when I was mayor, I was asked, do you want a citizen comment period? It was my call. It was the mayor's call. So, you know, anyway, it's not that big a deal, really. And they can set it for 30 minutes. They might say for work sessions, it might be 15 minutes. I don't care, as long as the public gets to be. Typically what happens if there's more than 10 comments that aren't all the same, saying the exact same thing on the exact same issue, then the council's always going to allow more than 30 minutes. Always. It's not coded, but that's not in the charter either. So I'm fine with them deciding how to handle it. I just want it in the charter that it has to be on the agenda. Any other comments or discussion on this?
John, can you
Yes, sir.
restate the motion one more time?
Sure. All city council agendas shall contain an item listed, quote, citizen comment period, unquote, and question and answer session with press and public, unquote.
Okay.
Exactly the way they're written now on agendas.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, Ms. Moreno, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Garcia,
Esther, are you there?
She's on mute.
Aye.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mayhew,
Aye.
Commissioner Sambrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomites.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So there's 6 of us here.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, I've got one more short one. I think it's in section 301. But again, I'm open to suggestions on where to put it. We had some lengthy discussions over several meetings on consecutive terms, council members and mayor. And we put a suggestion to 3 consecutive terms for council member and 2 consecutive terms for mayor. However, we lengthened the mayor's term. There was some suggestion when Mr. Cosentino was providing the city council's interim report that I heard. And one of the things that I heard was that way that we have it would be if a council member is off for a year, then they could run again in the next election. I find that a little problematic because I don't know if it would work out this way, but let's say you served 9 years and for a technicality on council, you had to get off, but then you ran again in a year from now. So your election was November 3rd, but then a year later, the election's November 6th or November 5th. Depending on how the calendar, that's technically more than a year. And I think the way it was stated was that person could be on that ballot again. And my suggestion might be, I think the intent, at least my intent for those, the limiting was not so much to punish anybody for serving, because if you can stand 9 years on city council, trust me, you got it going on. But I think the time off helps, if that makes sense. I think the time away, I think a couple years away, 2 years away, allows an elected official to see what they did, not just in the moment, but looking back and how, you know, and also to see from the outside in as just a regular citizen, not a regular citizen, but just as a non-elected citizen, that's not in that tunnel of elected official discussion. So, you know, you get to see, how does your city council respond to you? How does your staff respond to you? And how did the decisions I made, you know, affect the community? Because a lot of times in city government, nothing happens for 2 to 3 years. You can vote on it, have the biggest fight, and nothing happens. It's going to happen later. So my suggestion would be that a council member should have to wait 2 years. I take that back, should have to wait 2 election cycles. So does that, if you had to wait 2 election cycles, Mr. Cosentino, does that mean you're off for 2 years or you are off for 3 years? What does that mean?
Well, it gets a little bit more complicated because remember, a council member can run for whatever seat they want, right? With that large, so they can, so it's still a term. And by the way, I didn't glean the same conclusion from any current city council members' comments at the last city council meeting. To
I
me,
heard you say it. I heard
No,
you say it.
no,
When someone asked, you said they would have to be off for a year.
that's right. But I disagree with the premise that if the election, because the calendar advances and the first Tuesday of November falls on a day that's more than 1 year later, that's waiting out. I disagree with the premise of your hypothetical. I think as worded right now, consecutive terms means once you've served those, you can't run again until you've been out of office for a whole year, regardless of whether the election date is exactly a year and a day later or what have you. So I'm disagreeing with the hypothetical, not there.
So what does that mean then? So if you're, let's say you leave your term in 2020, the next election is November 2021. You can't run until November 22.
Correct.
You can't run. Does the charter need to say that? To be clear, for clarity's sake?
Well, I do think this language, to be eligible to serve, you know, what would be the point of running? But if you want to tweak it, you know, you can. But the intent here of this Charter Review Commission was you have to sit out at least a year before you could run again. That's why we injected the word consecutive in there. That's what I thought from your discussions.
Okay, so let me ask, before I make this motion, if there's any, I would appreciate just a little bit of feedback from any commissioners. So the way I hear it is, if you serve your 9 years, you have to be off for a year. That means you can't run in the next election, but you can run the election after that.
Right.
Is that enough time? Go ahead, Zach, or should there be an additional year? That's all I'm asking.
First and foremost, I think I'd like there to be longer than a year, and I'd like that language to be in the subsection C there. I was thinking actually 3 years, and I think I meant to make that motion that night, and it wasn't until after the meeting that I thought of it, and I told myself, I wrote it down somewhere, and I should go back on my notes, but I told myself to reintroduce it once we actually finished, that they at least wait 1 whole term of at least 3 years. But secondly, as far as language goes, Mr. Cosentino, if a council member were to run and win their 2 consecutive terms on top of their first original term and then run for mayor, is that prohibited by the language we currently have or no? And how does the commission feel about that?
That's a good question.
Well, where's the section on the mayor? The mayor, it's right there. So from there,
Precedence.
so to me, that's a different office, right?
It
I
is.
think you could serve the 3 years as a council member and then just go right back the way this is worded, because it's a different office. You could run for mayor then.
Okay.
If that's not your intention, then we need to work on the language, right? Or your recommendation, so.
Okay. Anybody else have any feedback on that?
I like the idea of people being off a little longer. I don't know what the right number is though.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna throw it out there, Zach. I appreciate your viewpoint on it. I'm glad we're kind of thinking along the same lines. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'd like to add language to section C there, 301C. And the motion would be, okay, so it should read, the council member shall be able to serve 3 consecutive terms and shall be no, period. That person could sit out cycles before being eligible to run again for council.
I'm sorry.
Your audio was out.
Sorry. Must wait 2 council elections before they can run again. So in other words, not 1, but 2.
2 full terms.
Or okay, Michael, let's use your language. Must be off for 2 years. And that gets you to the 3 election cycle, 3 elections from when you got off, right?
Yeah, so I guess the concept is after serving 3 consecutive terms, a council member shall not be eligible. Shall not be eligible to, as you said, to run for any council position for a period of at least 2 years. After for at least 2 years.
That means that's clear then. They can't run in the first election after they're off, and they can't run in the second, but they can run again in the third for city council. Okay, we'll take the mayoral thing because I think that's a different issue. So that's my motion, and we can state it again. But if there's a second, I'd appreciate it.
What is say it again, John? Can you go?
Oh, we will, Esther. Hold on. Who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I'll have Michael read it again, say it again, and then Zach.
Yeah, after serving 3 consecutive terms, a council member shall not be eligible to run for any city council position for a period of 2 years.
Okay. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, after serving 9 years, and John, please, and Mr. Mayhew offer some insight. I think I'd like to see it longer than 2 years. I know you offered some insight and said that having that time off is really good.
But it's 3 years, technically. It's a
3,
minimum of 2 years, but you're not back in office until 3 years later. You may be running for 4 or 5 months prior, but.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think I'd actually like it longer than that. And feel free to offer some insight. I just, I don't know, after serving 9 years and only taking, 2 years or so off and then running again and getting back on council, I'm always skeptical of, and I know we haven't had much of it, if you will, but corruption, and things of that nature. I think I'd like to see it longer. I think I'd make the amendment to the motion that it be 3 consecutive terms or 3 years. So then they would have to run the 4th year.
Let's have a little bit of discussion and then you can make your.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. To me, it's just, I just think it's a bit of an eye opener for people. I have seen elected officials who have got back on, who do a better job after a little time to soak on, everything that's happened. You just don't see it. It comes at you too fast, and it's hard to see everything and the impact of your votes and your actions and things like that. So I feel like, having to wait 3 years is plenty. And 9 years is a long time, but there's a lot of people who have done a lot longer than 9 years. Ed Mahokanian, myself, the mayor, a lot longer than 9 years in a row. So is there any other comments? Then we'll come back to Zach. All right, Zach.
No, I was just going to say, like he said, and Mr. Mayhew, feel free to weigh in. I value your insight too. But, like you said, some projects take 2 to 3 years to even begin or fully develop. And, if you will, with the Woods, I know Mr. Scott got reelected, but I just feel like there needs to be a grace period, and I know we're at the 2 years now, but I think I'd like to see it longer than that.
Okay. Well, why don't we go through and we'll, Mr. Cosentino, what is the process here? Or Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
So what is the process to, I know we dealt with this before, to amend an amendment?
Sure.
Yeah,
So,
right. There would be, Mr. Sembrano, if he wishes to do so, could move to make a motion to amend this last motion to end with, for a period of 3 years instead of 2.
Okay.
And then you'd vote on that, and then you'd vote on the main motion. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. So we have a motion for 2. Zach, do you want to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make the motion that I'd like to amend the motion that it be a 3-year period rather than 2.
Okay. We have a second for that.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
yeah, my head's still spinning around because I'm looking at this, and then knowing our last discussion we had, it's kind of interesting when you start thinking about, well, what if it were single member districts too? It's a whole nother ballgame, maybe, It's interesting.
Yeah.
Whether they're single member or not, I don't want them running all of their adult life and to be a career politician. But
Okay. So we have a motion and an amendment to the motion and a second. So the first vote, Mr. Cosentino, is now on the 3-year delay, correct?
Correct.
So it's eligibility after 3 years, which means 4 elections, the 4th election. So, okay, so let's take the roll on that, Ms. Moreno.
Okay, Commissioner Garcia,
Nay.
Commissioner Mayhew,
Aye.
Commissioner Sembrano,
aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomites.
No. Okay, so that passes with 4 votes, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So now the main motion reads, Mr. Cosentino, tell us what the main motion.
Yes. After serving 3 consecutive terms, a council member should not be eligible to run for any city council position for a period of 3 years.
Okay, now we have that.
Oh, wait, I
So-
thought that one was 2.
No, it should.
We just amended that.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
So
Sorry.
yes, so it now would read 3.
Okay.
right. Okay, so any discussion on the main motion? If not, let's call the roll.
Okay.
For
Oh.
clarity, so if we just.
I'm sorry, hold on. Go ahead, Zach.
If we just voted yes for that, and if for whatever reason this passes, then don't they
3
contradict?
years. No, it's got
No,
3
it's-
years.
Okay,
Which is the fourth year. I mean,
Fourth election.
it's what you
Okay.
want, Zach. It's what you
It's
want.
what you want. Yeah, your motion passed.
okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Now call the roll.
Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Garcia?
Esther? We'll come back to Esther, please.
Okay. Commissioner Mayhew?
Aye.
Commissioner Sambrano?
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Chair Tomides?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Okay. I don't hear. Okay,
Do an A?
just not present for that
Yeah.
vote.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that's all I have, I think. Oh, one more. I know section 12, we
Oh.
changed.
I've got something for that.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul. Why don't you?
So here's what I'm thinking, and I don't know what went on the other night at the council meeting, but I was a little disappointed that our chair was not able to present. That's what I take happened, John. You weren't able to present, and
Nope.
Mr. Cosentino was asked to explain our stuff, and so for me, it really bothers me. Number one, that we had this interim report anyway. I think that kind of has it caused our commission maybe to get a little off track. I think we could have been wrapping everything up and putting a bow on it probably this week if we didn't have that to do. So, and I understand, Mr. Cosentino, that you are an employee of those people that were sitting up there. And so, I don't blame you for answering the questions that they ask you by any means. But I feel pretty strongly that the commission should speak for the commission. And I don't think staff should, and this is my own opinion, I don't think staff should be the ones commenting on reports like that. I think it should have been the chair. I'm disappointed it wasn't. And I don't know if, John, you were thinking this or not, but I had written down 12.12A4. If you want to go to that. And this is what I'm thinking. I could put it in a motion if others are thinking that they might be amenable, but if they're not, I can just leave it as it is. Let's see, you have that? Yeah, so it says, currently it says, report its finding and present its proposed amendments, if any, to the city council. So I played around a little bit and I looked at it and said, okay, what if we went instead with something like this? The commission shall provide a final report. The chair or designated member of the commission on behalf of the commissioners, on behalf of the commission, shall report its findings and present its proposed amendments, if any, to the city council. I mean, I think it should have been our chair who was speaking. Our chair has run the meetings, has done a good job, and could have freely answered any questions from council. And I don't know, maybe if we, and I had looked at before, it's saying shall only provide a final report, to make it even more restrictive in that capacity. But I mean, for me, I was really disappointed to hear that our chair took time out of his life to attend a council meeting where he was basically put on the sidelines and wasn't able to speak. And to me, that was very, well, I thought it was very rude of the council not to have Chair Tomites speak and present the interim report. You know, however full or complete or not complete to their standards it was. So anyway, those are my 2 cents. I appreciate your listen, and I'll,
Is that your motion then?
you know what? I'd like to make that my motion.
Okay, I
Yes.
will second that. I will second that motion. I agree, and I thank you for the words of confidence. It would have been fine. You know, I spent a number of hours preparing for the meeting, you know, and making sure that any question could be answered. But I think having that language in the charter itself, frankly, I think there's a mix-up in the city council. Right now, the council is sending a bunch of suggestions for the Charter Review Commission to discuss, and that's fine. And they're doing so in a way that is pretty clear. There's, you know, voice votes and things like that. But this interim report was a first, and it was based on the premise that if there were things that the Charter Review Commissioners discussed that we didn't direct them to discuss, then we could decide should they even further discuss. And that is, this needs to be independent. It needs to be out of the political field. We all, I think, took a great oath in the beginning that we would, I think in our first meeting, a number of us said how important it would be for us to make amendments, suggestions that are not, you know, politically motivated or attacks on any particular member, that it was strictly to improve the functioning of our government and the charter of this city. And I think that's exactly what we've done. I really do. And I've been through a lot of these, and that is not always the case. And just again, to remind everybody, interim reports have never been requested before, and it's awkward because we're not done yet, right? And final reports are always made and have always been made. All reports have been made by the commission themselves. And and we've elected commission leadership. If I wasn't there, Paul, it should be you. You're the vice chair. And so I think that's an excellent. I didn't even see that section, but that's a great suggestion in my opinion. And that way the council hears it from us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Do you think it should be shall only provide a final?
no, I think shall provide a final report gets the message across.
I think so too. I thought so too. I didn't know how you felt today, John.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so let's see. Do you need me to read the motion, Tina?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yes,
All right. So this would be, you know, I guess you could strike all of that if you want, or maybe use what's in there. But basically, it is this: the commission shall provide a final report, period. The chair or designated member of the commission, comma, on behalf of the commission, shall report its findings and present its proposed amendments, if any, to the city council.
Okay, read that second sentence again.
Sure. The chair or designated member of the commission, on behalf of the commission, shall report its findings and present its proposed amendments, if any, to the city council.
Shall propose its findings.
Yes, it's in that's pretty much that same sentence there.
Oh, okay,
For
let's see.
present its
Findings. Oh, okay.
findings and present its proposed amendments, if any, to the city council.
Okay,
So just you know, you can use what's in there and add the other, I suppose.
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Is there any questions on the motion? If not, Ms. Moreno, would you call the roll, please?
yes. Commissioner Garcia,
Yay,
Commissioner Mayhew.
Aye.
yes.
I'm sorry, Esther, what was your vote?
Aye.
Yes, she voted aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, and I got Mayhew. Commissioner Sembrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomides,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay, thank you for that. I have one question for the commission. Section 11212, same section, but item A 2 and 3. I think it was last meeting. We removed desirable. And I'm kind of wondering if there's a need. Could you go to what we did on that?
Right
Tina?
there on the screen.
It's right here.
Is
Yeah.
it-
Screen.
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
12, no. Oh, yeah, we removed, thank you. We removed it may deem desirable. And I'm wondering, you know, I know we talked about why that was in there, and now I'm kind of wondering if that shouldn't be in there. And the reason that I ask that, that I suggest that is I can't tell you how many times I heard council members kind of allude to the fact that the charter commission only does what the council wants it to do.
Yeah.
I don't see this that way at all. And I really don't think this commission should ever be like that. And so I'm kind of wondering, did this happen in the past and they add may deem desirable to, you know, I don't think any council member knows. In fact, I talked to a council member and I shared this thought with them that it's in the charter. You can't prohibit the commission from sending any recommendation whatsoever. And so I'm kind of wondering, the way we have it now, do y'all feel like that's absolutely clear or?
Well,
does it
John,
need to
I
be-
think I made that motion. And I agree with you after, and I've always wondered why it was in there, because, you know, it was in there in 2017 too. So evidently at some point prior to that, it was important. And I think after this, you know, last week, it became important to me again. And, you know, I would be supportive if you wanted to make that motion. I certainly would be glad to second that thing. So.
And I will, and I hope the commissioners, it's not, I think maybe it might have been a mistake to remove it. So I'll make a motion in section 1212, 2 and 3 to unremove it. I don't know what the word is, put it back.
I'll second.
So the language would have stayed the same and our final report won't show any change, suggested change, if it passes. And I hope it doesn't sound petty. It's not. But I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Charter Review Commission's role is here. It is separate from the city council. They can make recommendations, but I think we've proven that, yes, we will consider them, but we're not beholden only to what you all want. And I think that needs to be stressed again. So that's the motion and we have a second. Any questions or comments on that motion?
I have just a comment,
Sure.
just to kind of reiterate what we're talking about here, because I did go back and watch the meeting. And I've kind of gone back and watched a few of the other council meetings regarding charter stuff and all that. And I'm a little, I'm disturbed at the perceptions of how this the charge of how this commission is supposed to work. That are atypical of what I see in a lot of other cities. Charter commissions tend to be ferociously independent on purpose, because it provides that political distance. I don't see that happening here. I understand the concept of serving at the pleasure of city council. It's a no-brainer for me. I get that. But yeah, when I saw the meeting where, I'm just very used to cities where if the chair of a commission shows up, that they are afforded the opportunity to speak, to represent the thoughts of their respective commission. And that bothered me an awful lot. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
if I can add one more thing, I agree with you 100%, Chance. And, it wasn't always the case that the beliefs about this commission. I know that back in 2000, when I was on, I was newly elected to council. And at that point, the Charter Review Commission was very independent. We did not give them any direction. They went at it, and even to the point where, we agreed as a council. Everything they brought forward, we moved forward for the people of the city to actually vote on it. It was that important that there was a group that was able to independently look at something. And even the point of us, they said they want to pay us $100 a meeting, not to exceed $300, and that was what the pay was back then. And of course, we let it go to the voters, and the voters, voted to take their money back. And so that's, but that's the way it is. We deferred to that committee because that commission is really important. It only happens every 4 years. So I hope that the more people actually read the charter and are aware of what actually is spelled out in it. It's pretty clear what we can and cannot do. And so anyway, appreciate you, Chance, and your thoughts.
Anybody else? Okay, so the motion is just to the effect of the motion is to put section 2 and 3 back the way it was, kind of like we did earlier on section 701. So,
right.
And we have a second. So I'm going to ask if Ms. Moreno, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayhew,
Aye.
Commissioner Zambrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomides.
Aye. Thank you all for that. And I would say that maybe section 1212 ought to be introduced to every city council during the beginning of the charter review process. But I don't think anybody knows it's in there.
Yeah.
That these specific processes are in there. Okay, I know we have. No. No, the last one was.
I think we're all troubled by it, John. So if I hear a motion, I have a second.
The last time there was one, it was everybody had to, I think it was a suggestion, everybody had to get up in public and read the campaign oath of office or something. It was just on TV.
Yes.
And I was like, and so I made a joke. I was like, why don't you just tattoo it on your forehead? And somebody said, yeah, we'll do that then. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So no, none of that. But no, this Charter Review Commission is on the money, man. We are serious, and we are taking dead aim at what we need to do. So, Zach, I know you have probably another item that you want to bring back at some point. So I'll give you that opportunity at the next meeting, if that's okay. Let you work on that. Is there anything else that anybody has in any of the sections at this point?
No,
Okay.
I do not.
Can I ask for everybody to voice that? Chance, anything for you? Any proposed changes at this point? Arthur, how about you?
No, I just want to make one comment.
Sure.
I recall back when I served as vice chair of this commission under Susan Rice, I want this commission to know that we had over 60 propositions that was put before the voters, and all 60 propositions passed. One of those propositions is the reason city council is being paid now. I might add, because of the stroke of my pen. Thank you.
Nice, nice.
Well, I better not say thank you, but thank you. And I'll tell you, and I think your point is well taken. Is it's the same thing that Paul says, is we may not like it, but the voters should have that choice, in the end. And like you said, Paul, I mean, when you were on the commission said no pay, and all of us served. I know I served almost 3 terms with no pay.
That's right.
So
It's
that
truly ridiculous.
come and go.
It's truly ridiculous in my view that city council is not paid an adequate income. And I've always objected to that. I believe we can entrust you with serving the citizens of this town and doing the work. You should be paid for the services that you render. And I think that's one of the things that need to be considered strongly in the future here, is that these people are not paid adequately to do the job.
Well, appreciate your comments on that as well. And so what, if it's all right, we'll close out this item for tonight. The item that Zach wants to bring back and the section, if you could get us that before Wednesday, the section that you want to talk about again, Zach, specifically, make sure that's on the next agenda.
Okay, 3.01B. But just to be clear, is next Monday the third Monday of the month?
I think we're off that Monday, right, Ms. Moreno?
That's correct. The 26th, I believe, is their next meeting. Let me double check here.
Oh, shoot.
That's right.
Which is okay. I mean, obviously,
Yes, the 26th.
Bring it back, but
Okay,
Just to
so
make sure.
I'm scheduled to be out of town on the 26th with family. Would we be, if we made a concerted effort to, and I'm gonna go through this next item pretty quickly, but I had some thoughts and just wanted to get the feedback and direction for staff on this. If we did the first meeting in May, what do you think? Would that give us enough time to complete all our work and the staff needs? Go ahead, Mr. Mayhew.
Well, if we, to my knowledge, we're just really looking at one more item, right? One more amendment.
I think we're Zach's amendment and then the final report discussion.
Right. So the final report. So knowing that, everything else, I mean, I have nothing, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I have nothing else to add or delete or anything. I know Zach has something coming up. We'll vote on the, final report, but, we could, I really like the way that staff put together the final report for last time because it had a lot of detail in there and it took them time to be able to do it. So I want to make sure they have time, but if they know that, we really just have one amendment, it may be a doozy that's coming, but if they know that that's just really the only thing, they can really kind of get started on pulling some of that stuff together, I would think.
Okay, that's an excellent point
to be able to do it.
Okay, so that's an excellent point. And just so I'm gonna move us into item 3, which is discuss and consider the final report to the City Council from the Charter Review Commission. I would assume that this process would take you at least 2 to 3 weeks anyways. Is that correct, Mr. Cosentino?
Well, it depends whether you want what you want your final report to look like. And you've not really discussed it much. The bare essentials are this, and you don't necessarily have to have a final report that basically can be copied and pasted into an ordinance calling the election. Not necessarily, But it would be helpful to have at some point to have the proposed ballot language in it. You've already got the text amendments, right? That much I think you've been doing. Ms. Moreno's been tracking that as she goes. So that part's pretty easy to pull together. When I prepared a summary of your interim report, sorry for doing that, because apparently it wasn't well received. But but in any case, it could be abbreviated. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go into a lengthy explanation. But if you want to discuss your philosophy behind any of the amendments, then that's got to come from you all. I'm not going to propose to speak for this commission ever again. So I want to be clear on that. So I can give you the bare bones, but if you want to go into rationale, what you debated, what one person said versus another person said, then it's going to be a far more encompassing document. So decide what, as you discussed right now, what you want it to consist of. If you want it bare bones, yeah, we can put that together fairly quickly. I did want to tell you, I'm not going to be available for your first meeting in May. I'm going to be out the entire week. So, I may send Sam Aguirre or Jackie Cullum over here, but if need be. Is there a possibility?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Is there a possibility that y'all could meet sooner than the 26th? I mean, yeah, I know. Was there an inability to meet on the third Monday of the month?
I had a conflict, but that's just me. I mean, I don't have to be there, but
I know the 19th.
For the 19th.
And Commissioner Garcia has her P and Z or Zambrano also now? Is that, or who was it?
Well,
Commissioner
I believe
Garcia has
Commissioner Garcia
Parks.
has Parks Board.
Parks Board, that's what it
I
is.
my parking advisory board, and I already missed one because of this. I think John had forgot and he had scheduled us on a third Monday. So yeah, I don't want to miss another one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
okay.
Well,
So before we get into the calendar,
okay.
let's just have a short discussion. Has anybody other than Mr. Mayhew seen the last charter review final report from 2017?
We included it before your first meeting, I believe. Did
Did
Yes,
anybody
it was in
read
the
it?
initial packet.
Yeah.
Anybody read it? I thought it
So-
was pretty good, Paul. I mean, there was the actual proposed amendment. There was I don't know what you called it, the
Right.
reasoning or the
You want me to
reason
read
behind it.
through? Yeah, I've got it in front of me. I mean, we had
Just read one of them.
Yeah, so we had list of recommended amendments, right? That was one tab, the first one. So like number one was change all references to municipal government to city government, sections 101 and 102. And then the purpose, to provide clarity and consistency throughout the city charter.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a purpose, and Mr. Costantino did a good job of getting that together. So, if we wanted to do a purpose, we could, or we could choose not to. But that was the section. So we had all the list of recommended city charter amendments. After that, we had the red line amendments. So it had the city charter, and it showed kind of what we see on the screen when Tina goes through and crosses out and highlights. Then we had the Charter Commission meeting minutes, so that they had all of the minutes that were approved that were in there. And then the council member requests were on the back page that all the council members wanted us to look at. So
Very thorough.
and I thought that was really good. Now, if we didn't want to put a purpose behind it, we don't have to put a purpose. They can read the minutes. But anyway, I thought that staff did a fantastic job last time putting those items together like they did.
And I agree with you. And I honestly think that our report should look very similar to this. It's got the three main parts of it that you need, not just the proposed change, but the purpose behind it, and then the ballot language. The only thing I would say was that, for instance, and I will let the commission know, and I will make a request of each commissioner as well. If there's a particular item that we made a change on, or that you may have introduced and it passed, and you would like to help author the purpose, I would greatly appreciate that. And I know Mr. Mayhew, I've reached out to him. He's done one. Mr. Sparks has done one for a particular item that I think Mr. Kelsey has done, because he introduced that section 101 text change. That was kind of his initiative. So if there's any particular initiative that you would like to put some, a sentence to, please forward it to Tina. We have a couple. I don't know if you have those up right now, Tina, those ones that I sent you.
Oh, on the notes, that one?
Yeah, it was just some notes, and I just distilled it. Now we probably won't use all of this, but here was some contemporaneous things that we discussed during this particular item. And if you'll scroll down a little farther, keep going. So this was the 4 and 5 votes, the discussion.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there might be something really good in there that we should definitely have in the purpose. And again, this is from one person's viewpoint, but what I'd like to do is to try to have the staff, as best they can, produce a similar final report, and then allow us as commissioners to, obviously we're unlikely to change the text proposal, but we may add a word or two, or maybe add a sentence in the purpose that really may encapsulate the commissions. And there's one more, if you'll just go down, scroll down a little farther, this section 103, and this was from Commissioner Kelsey.
That's it, right?
Correct
Yeah.
word, punctuation, stuff like that. So that was just some thoughts. So I invite every commissioner to do that between now and the time that we actually, in fact, I'd like to see it, if it's all right with the commission. I'd like to finish our work in one more meeting. I'll be blunt. We've spent a lot of time, and I'd like to try to finish it in one more meeting. So if we could give the staff enough time to produce a final report, Zach, we have enough time there'll be plenty of time for you to work on your item that you want to introduce to the commission. And then the way I would envision it is that we meet one more time. We discuss the one proposed change. And if it passes, we'll discuss how that would be worded in the final report. But we would also have a draft of that final report in front of us, and that can be accepted, denied, or amended at that next meeting. Is that okay with everybody?
What
Arthur?
meeting is that for?
Well, we're getting to the date, and
Okay.
we want to make sure you have enough time to do it. But so before we get mixed up in the date, I just want to see if
Yeah.
we can agree on
One other question is it the consensus of the commission that the purpose statements should be pretty much one sentence like they were last time, or do you want to embellish more? Because the comments I already saw were longer than a sentence in most instances that you've even, that have been worked on so far. So is the desire to distill the purpose statements down to a sentence if possible?
May I just weigh in, and then Paul, if you have anything to say, I would just suggest that you do that, Michael, just like you did in 2017. Try to distill it as best you can. But I would like us as commissioners to weigh in on that at that time. So if there's any changes we'd like to see in those purpose statements that may get across maybe a little bit better, And Michael, if you can, just as you're distilling on these particular items that various commissioners have sent in, could you, see if any of those specific suggestions compare it with your recollection of our reasoning and our purposes for doing what we did? That's what
Yeah.
I'd like to see. Go
Well,
ahead,
just-
Mr. Mayhew.
Yeah,
So-
and.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Paul.
I do like what Mr. Cosentino did last time, the one sentence, to provide or to allow, to elect, whatever it was basically put down on a bumper sticker. But you could have both, because you could easily have, more background information. You can have another tab that has, fairly significantly worded explanations like you have in here, that we've just seen. So you can put all of those in a tab at the back for their reference,
That's a good idea.
and that way,
More
we can-
in depth.
Yeah, because it looks, the report, when they get it, it would really look good to have, basically this is to allow blah, 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 or to correct this, and this, whatever that, brief description is. And then in the back, you could have, further details where we include those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. And everyone should keep in mind that this is going to be discussed during a council meeting
Mhm.
and probably an agenda that's 900 pages long.
Mhm.
So this is just part of a meeting. So I think that, and again, it'll be in draft form when we see it in our agenda packet and when we vote on it. So it is, if there's something that we need to modify a little bit for that 1 or 2 sentence purpose, we can do it at that time.
Yes, some of the ones that are a little bit more involved is, okay, what is the rationale behind, increasing terms of council members, mayors? What's the rationale behind term limits? I don't know. Obviously, there was some debate about whether to do some of those things, and the votes weren't unanimous either. But
my question is, does it matter if the votes aren't unanimous when the commission speaks? Aren't we one body?
No, it doesn't. But just putting, distilling the rationale for it. Like, it could be very simple. A 2-year term for mayor is too short.
Well, frankly, I think that the chair and
Very-
vice chair ought to work with the city attorney on these purposes. I think there ought to be. I don't think it should just come from staff. I think it's our role to try to distill all of the commissioners into 1 or 2 sentences, and I'm willing to do that if you are, Mr. Mayhew.
Sure, I'll do my best.
And if it's okay with the commission, but I think that should come from us as well. And I think wouldn't be that hard. We haven't made a whole lot of recommendations, and we haven't made a whole lot of really controversial ones. So, okay. So where we're at is our next meeting. We have a discussion on an item. We have a draft of the final report to review and vote on. And does anybody have any questions on that before I start talking about dates? Okay. So I'm gonna throw out a date, and let me get you all's.
How did we ever determine how much time staff will need?
I'm
John?
thinking it's more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Michael says he's out the week of the 3rd, so we could do Monday, May 10th.
Yes, and then that still leaves you the 24th if needed.
Right.
Yeah. May 10th.
And that gives staff 1, 2, 3 weeks.
And Mr.
3 weeks.
Cosentino will be available for the May 10th meeting, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, because I think
Okay.
it's important that he's present as well.
Okay, and then question, Mr. Cosentino. If the draft needs to be included in the meeting packet, which would go out on the 5th, you're out that week.
Yep.
Do you think you'd have the draft to me on the 30th?
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
depending
I
on
like
how
it.
much, yeah, I mean,
Good
depending
answer.
on whether or not
So it's 2 weeks.
Chair, Vice Chair wanna,
No.
to speak to purpose statements, so.
I don't think we have a whole lot, Michael, honestly. I just think that, I mean, neither of us have a whole lot of time, but I think we could give it once we get it, we could commit to a 1 to 2 day turnaround for you.
Yeah, I think so too. Ms. Moreno, do you have a cumulative list of the recommended amendments already?
I
or-
have one.
Michael,
I prepared it for
Excellent.
the city council, much to everyone's dismay, or at least y'all's dismay. Sorry for doing that, but I already have a head start on it, so that's good.
Okay, got a head start. That's good.
Sorry for doing the work. Apologize.
Well, that's really fun.
Right. Anyway,
Hey, Mr. Cosentino, I don't, like I said, I know you have 7 bosses up there and
and quite frankly, I didn't know, number one, that John wanted to speak, and number two, I didn't even know he was in the waiting room waiting to speak. So it certainly wasn't anything on my part that prevented him from being there. I didn't even know he was there or wanted to address the commission.
yeah.
Right. So
and
anyway,
I received the email too late. I had already logged off and didn't realize he was.
No,
meeting.
I received a link from the city clerk. I was in the meeting. I wasn't
I
I
in the
did
waiting.
see, I
No,
saw
I
how you,
or that you
You
wanted
weren't
to.
there.
speak. No, no,
Well, it's irregardless. It's not part of the discussion tonight. So
All right.
the net is that I think we're clear that reports come from the commission. Okay, so can we do the 10th? Staff?
Yes.
I'm good with the 10th.
Yes.
So the meeting will be on the 10th, commissioners, and we will do our best. I think we should be able to wrap it up. There's not a whole lot. I don't foresee a whole lot of changes in the final report. So I think the bulk of it will be about our discussion item, and we'll vote on that as well. So is there anything else? Tina, go ahead.
Okay, so the agenda's on the screen right now, so I know we'll have approved minutes of tonight. And then I'm gonna keep discuss and consider any section as the next item. And then the third item will be discuss and consider.
No, that's
final
not,
report.
no, that's not what we'll do. Let me work with you on the language for item 2.
2, okay,
And then 3, I want to change to, well, I guess consider as action. Consider final report, so that could probably remain exact. But we can visit on the exact language of the
For
agenda.
okay.
John, do you,
Yes, Zach, go ahead.
in the case, which I'm hoping, my motion passes, do you want me to try to write the language of what will be on the final report, similar to what obviously y'all did in 2017? I mean, obviously that may be a little tough.
I wouldn't worry about the final report, but worry about your language for your text change.
Okay.
We can talk about the final report when we discuss that, depending on
So-
how it turns out,
So, okay.
because
So-
it's a big one, like you say.
I guess Ms. Moreno's question was whether or not, if y'all have another good idea between now and May 10th is a ways off.
No, we already had that discussion. We
Okay,
went
all right.
around the table and asked, are there any other items? The only one open is Zach's. So
Okay.
I
Clear,
don't want
to
to,
be clear,
Okay.
the universe of potential amendments is limited to one. All right, at this point, one
oh,
additional
that's
one.
what we
Yeah.
made the agreement. I asked everybody verbally, please verbalize if you think you have any, and the only one is Zach. So that's
Okay.
where we're gonna try to finish.
Okay.
Patience,
Okay.
patience, John, patience, John.
I'm clear.
I just didn't want to restrict anything.
Well, I
Well-
get you,
Yeah.
but that's typically you and I discuss the agenda language
Yes,
before you post it.
yes.
It's kind of the role.
John,
All
be
right.
nice, John, be nice, John. Be nice.
All right. So here we are. I think we're done. And we're gonna go to question 5, which is question and answer session with the press and public. Is there any press or public available, Ms. Moreno?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, hearing none, I will consider us adjourned at 7:47 PM. Thank you all, commissioners. It was a great meeting. Really
Thank
well.
you.
Uh,
All
Have a good
right.
night.
Thank you,
Have a
staff.
great night, y'all.
Okay, we
Night.
will see you on the 10th and we will send out numerous emails reminding
All of the emails.
you. Maybe calls and emails. Yes, I think we'll do that, team. All right, thank you all. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.